I was working with a guy who owns a gym. So
Mm-hmm.
he's like always at the gym, and he's got to run this business. And he's like, I just don't have time. I don't have time in the day to meet anybody. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, do you ever go out to lunch? Do you ever grab a coffee during the day?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, a couple times a week. Great. You're going to do one approach every time you do that.
Yeah.
Just integrate it. Integrate it. And dating is supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be you just got to enjoy it. Everybody thinks of it as like a chore, and it's not supposed to be a chore. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, exactly. You want to set it up so like even if like you talk to women, they don't like you, like you still have a pretty good day. For example, like when I was in San Francisco, like my Saturdays were awesome. I loved my Saturdays. Judging by how much I went out, like my Saturday would typically consist of me waking up somewhere around midday. I'd crawl out of bed. I got to get out. So I'd been up till like 3 a.m. partying probably the night before. Probably later if I'm being honest. And then I would get up and like around midday, I'd head to this park called Dolores Park. If you ever go to San Francisco, Dolores Park is the best place to go. It's awesome. I love it. They like people will go out there. They'll set up a blanket. You can get like champagne and stuff and like play games and stuff like that. So I would always set up a blanket, and then I would just like hit up a few of my friends. Dude, even if nobody showed up, I'd have a fun time at that park because like the weather's great, the view's great, and you have fun people around you, so you can meet people as well too. So I would go to the park. Then after the park, I would go to dinner with my friends. And then after the dinner, we'd go watch a UFC fight. And then after the UFC fight, we'd go out. So like, dude, even if no women are involved there, like that's a fun Saturday. Like I get to spend all of that time either with myself or with my homies. Like, but at each point in time, there was an opportunity to meet people. There was an opportunity to meet people at the park. Like there was never a time where I didn't talk to a few different groups of girls or have them come to my blanket, after I've been to Dolores Park for a couple hours. And then same thing too with dinner. There was bunch of times where we went out to dinner. We had a big rowdy group. Like there was groups of people around us that we'd like start chatting with, and some of them they'd come to our table. Then we'd invite people to the fight. And women do not like fights, by the way. Most women don't like MMA fights. There are some that are fans, but just 99% of the women that I talked to were not into it. So if a woman showed up to the UFC fight, it was pretty much a done deal. Like I knew she was really into me, right? Because she was going to put up with watching some sanctioned violence to hang out with me.
Maybe that turned her on.
It could have, but who knows? But maybe we made it more of a social thing. So there's plenty of people hanging out that weren't even watching the fight. And then after that, we'd go out. So there was like a bunch of opportunities for me to meet people. But even if they weren't there, like, dude, that's a great Saturday. So, you want to think about things in terms of win-win and, have fun first. And I think that's a perfect example of it, and you just mentioned it yourself where it's like, he's going to go out to lunch anyway, like might as well, meet somebody or say hi and, just put himself out there a little bit. If you see somebody's schedule, like you always know that they're making excuses for why they can't do something.
Oh yeah. Every time, and that's why I love asking those questions, those minute questions. Well, do you ever go out for lunch? Do you ever get a coffee or something during the day? Because you're poking the holes in their excuses, and then they've got no more excuses. They got to do the work.
Right. And I think a lot of times with those guys is they just want to see a return on their investment, because time is the it's the most valuable resource that we as men have. Most valuable resource that most people have in general. You never get it back, no matter how rich you get. So they want to know that, I want the time that I'm putting towards this is going to have a return. And maybe the 5 approaches that they've done in the past, they haven't gotten a return on it. So they think it's not a useful thing to do. But if you incorporate it in your life, then really the opportunities that are coming to you are so frequent that it will eventually bring dividends, and you're not really adding that much time to yourself. And furthermore, this is a super important thing. If I told you that this time that you're putting towards this, you're going to meet a person who's going to motivate you, you're going to meet a person who's gorgeous, who's going to sexually gratify you, and ultimately give you children that will pass on your genes for the rest of your time on this planet and their time on this planet, then yeah, you'd probably want to put at least 10 minutes, every couple of days to making an effort to talk to somebody, about this. Like that's a huge return on the investment. It's just they're not seeing the immediate benefits of it, and so they tend to think, it's not worth it. But in reality, like, when you're doing something, anything that's worth doing is going to be hard doing. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's absolutely achievable, and it's straightforward if you plan your week correctly and you set yourself up to win.
And that's great advice for guys in the beginning, because getting through that first 100 approaches, it just seems like a huge daunting task. But
Yeah.
What
And then people,
my mentor told
they
me-
do a few of them and they're like, oh, this is a waste of time, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They don't see they have to put the work in. And like what I've been learning is it's going to take like probably 1,000 approaches to get really comfortable with it.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's
absolutely. I mean,
that's a lot of approaches. Yeah.
when I did my 1,000, like, dude, I was going out like, from age 22 to 26, maybe, I was going out like at least 4 times a week, 4 or 5,
Jeez.
and so like I approached a lot of women during that time. I slept with a lot of women during that time. So I honed my skills pretty well. So like when I talk about like the example of the practical approaching system, like, my numbers are pretty good, like I typically will approach people that I know it has a decent chance of success. But for me, because I'm stupid and I take a long time to learn stuff, like I needed like to approach thousands before I understood, what somebody looked like that was ready for a conversation. Because before I would just like bother people and interrupt people and wouldn't go anywhere. And I learned over time just by sheer brute force that, okay, don't approach them when they're doing XYZ, approach them when they're, more open and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I had the same strategy as well.